this video, we will discuss about Azure AI Translator service. So this service is basically used to translate your text. So we already know that many different languages are being spoken worldwide, right? And in today's globalized world, so ability to exchange the information between different languages is becoming very essential, right? So you have lot of speakers of different languages, and if they want to have an effective communication between them, so it becomes very crucial that the translation of the language needs to happen between various applications, right? So it can be application related to business or education or any kind of organization that which is using the applications wherein you are having the requirement to translate the text between different languages. Then this Azure AI Translator becomes very handy. So this is an API that can translate your text between 90 different languages. So it supports 90 languages, okay, and it becomes very essential for your global communication to be able to translate the text between different languages, right? So this particular API offers real-time translation with high accuracy because it uses advanced machine learning models and this API can be easily integrated between various applications and it can provide multilingual support. This tool is becoming very crucial for your business, for your education or any application wherein you require effective cross-language communication. So this API can build a bridge for your language barriers and it ensures that smooth information can be exchanged worldwide. So let us understand in detail about this Azure AI Translator resource. So what are all the capabilities that this resource provides is, it provides multi-language text translation API, wherein you have a support for language detection. So it can identify the language of the given text. So next is one-to-many translation. So that means you can translate text from one language to multiple languages simultaneously. That means from one language to different languages at the same time you can do the translation. And next you have script transliteration. So that is nothing but converting your text from its native script to an alternative script. So something like if you are translating this Japanese text which is written in Japanese script called hiragana, if you want to just translate that text, we are not just translating, we're converting basically here. So converting this text into Latin script which is the script of English. So here we are able to do the script transliteration with Azure AI Translator resource. Now when it comes to provisioning this resource in Microsoft Azure, you can provision a resource within your subscription and you've got two options there. Like for any other service we have, you can have a dedicated resource for translator service, that is your single service Azure AI Translator resource, or you can provision multi-service Azure AI Translator resource wherein you have multiple AI services and text analytics API is one of the service within your multi-service Azure AI service. So you can use this service by any of these resources. So once you have provisioned your resource, you need to use the location name where you have provisioned, where you have deployed, and one of the subscription keys to be able to call the Azure AI Translator API. So these two information will be needed in order to call the API for your Azure AI Translator service. So here how you can make use of this API, like again any other service, you have two options. You can make use of REST interface or you can use SDK. So here for the REST interface, you will submit a JSON request to the REST interface, and using SDKs, you can use the libraries available in the programming language which you want to use for, and you can integrate your translator API in your application. So this is how like in brief about how you can make use of this API. Now let us understand the different capabilities of this API. Let us understand language detection, translation and transliteration. So what are the different parameters available for each of these capabilities? First is language detection. So here as we already saw, language detection means this API can identify the language of the text. So the language of the text that you're trying to translate or whatever you're trying to do. So first it can provide you and detect the language. So what language is your text in that the source text that you're providing. So let's say if you want to detect the language of this particular text, so the request format would be, so this will be your endpoint api.cognitive.microsofttranslator.com. This is your API endpoint, and here you will when you're calling this API, you will specify as detect. So because we are trying to detect the text, okay? And then you specify the API version, your service region. So as I said, you need a location. So here you will specify your location where you have deployed this particular service, and your subscription key, okay? And your text, the text you want to detect the language for. So when you submit this kind of request to this API, this is how you will get the response. So you will be getting the response, the language. So here you are getting the language code in which this text is written, and then the confidence score. Is translation supported? Is transliteration supported? So it is just telling that this API also supports translation and transliteration. So this is how you can make use of this API to detect the language of your text. Next, coming to translation. So translation, when you want to use the translation feature, here you will be able to translate your text from one language to one or more other languages. So here when I mean one or more, that means it can translate your text into multiple languages together. So let's say if you want to translate this text which is in Japanese to English and French, okay, at the same time. So this is how the request will look like. So here the same endpoint, cognitive.microsofttranslator.com. So here we will specify the API name as translate. So this is the API that you are going to call. And then you mention API version, and then your parameters is from. So that is the from parameter, means you want to specify here the source language of your the language of your source text, and then you have two parameters. So to which language you want to translate. So now we want to translate it to French and English. So we have specified two parameters. Okay, we are translating it to French and also English. And you also specify your subscription key and the location of your service. And this is your text that you want to translate to, which is in Japanese. So now the output would be your translation, wherein you have output in English and output in French. So this is how you can do the translation. Next is your transliteration. So now sometimes if you want to translate your text, so again it is not translation, it is converting. So if you want to convert your text from one script to another script. So this is your text which is written in Japanese, and it is written in hiragana script. And if you want to translate this Japanese script into Latin script, which is English text, if you want to convert this text into another script, then you can make use of transliterate API. So here you will specify the API name as transliterate, and then you specify from script. So what is your from script name, which is Japanese, and then you specify your to script name, which is Latin, and then same subscription key and your location and your text that you want to translate. So when you submit this kind of request, the response is your script, the output script, and the output text in your Latin script. So here this is again Japanese only, this language, but only the script is changed here. So this is how you can convert your text from one script to another. Now we have different parameter options that you can specify in these APIs that will affect your output in different ways. Let's see what are the different translation options that you can specify. So first is word alignment. So here word alignment can help you to understand the relationship between your source and translated text. So that means, so when you write any text in your English language, right? Let's say here we have two words, smart service. So you have a space here, right, in your English language. But when we translate it to some other language, in some languages, like if you are translating it into Chinese, okay, it will be translated as one word only. So then in order to understand the relationship, like your smart word relates to what part of your translated text, and then services is related to what part of your translated text, like how is the words aligned between your source and translated text. To understand that relationship, you can make use of word alignment option. Let us understand how your request and response will look like if you are making use of word alignment parameter. So here when we are trying to translate a text, here we are specifying your from language, which is English, and here you're specifying your two language, which we're trying to do it in a Chinese. And if you specify include alignment is equal to true here, so there is another parameter, extra parameter that we're specifying, include alignment is equal to true. So now when you see the response, so when you have translated your smart services into Chinese language, it is translated in this way. So this is your output text in your Chinese language. So your two smart services word in English is translated as one single word in Chinese. Now if you have to understand the relationship between this word in English and this word in Chinese, we have specified include alignment as true. So then in your output of your translation, in your output response, you will have an extra property, that is alignment, wherein the output would be in this form. So now if you try to understand, it means that your 0 to 4 character in your source text is related to 0 to 1 character in your translated text. So that way you will be able to understand that your smart or 0 to 4 character, that is the smart, is translated to these first two characters of your translated, and then 6 to 13th character, 6th to 13th character in your source is translated to second to third character in your translated text. So that way you will be able to identify the translations exactly. Okay, so this is how you can make use of word align. Next you have something called sentence length. So sometimes you also want to know the length of the sentence after you have translated. Okay, so how much would be the length once you have translated your text? So these kind of requirement will be like if you want to display in the UI. So if you want to make sure that the translated text should fit in this text box. So you have a text box on your or you have some kind of screen on your UI interface. You want to make sure that it should exactly fit here. Okay, and it should not be like it becomes shorter and then your text is not properly visible on your UI. So in that case, you should be able to understand that when you are translating and showing it on the UI, what would be the length of your translated sentence. So in that case, this sentence length parameter you can specify. So if you want to translate hello world from English to French and you want to know the sentence length of your French translated text, then in your API request, same request, here you will specify an extra parameter, include sentence length is equal to true. So if you specify this parameter, then what happens? In your output response, apart from the translated text in your French language, you will also have another property called sentence length. Okay, another attribute called sentence length, wherein it will specify both the lengths, your source sentence length and your translated sentence length. So here 12 and 20. So this way it will be very helpful for you for any UI displays. Okay, so the parameter is include sentence length for your sentence length. And next you have profanity filtering. Now we have like different words which are profane, okay, which are something you want to omit or obscure from your text when you are translating, right? Or you want to handle them different. So if you want to handle the profanities in your text, you have different actions. Okay, so different actions that you can do, something like no action. Let's say you don't want to do any kind of action there, or you just want to translate even your profanities along with your other text in your source language. Or if you want to delete, if you want to omit the profanities, that means you don't want to translate, you don't want to show it in your translated text at all. Or you want to mark the profanities with, let's say, asterisk or some XML tags. Okay, so in your source language, let's say you have some word which actually is a profane word, then you want to make sure that in your translated text it should be shown as a asterisk. So there are three different actions that you can do to filter out your profane words in your source text when you're trying to translate that text. For example, if you want to translate this sentence, JSON is some blocked out word here and great. So this blocked out word is a profane word here, and here we are translating English to German and we are doing some profanity filtering. Now let's say I want to mark this blacked out word with asterisk. So in your request, you need to specify two parameters, profanity action and profanity marker. Okay, so now profanity action is the any one of these three actions that you specify, like whether you want to mark it, delete it, or you want to do, I mean, no action, but you want to do something here, right? You want to mark, then you also have to specify the marker, like what kind of like mark that you want to replace it with. So here we are specifying asterisk. Now when you submit this request, your response would be, so this particular text JSON is great, will be translated into your German language, and if you see, the blacked out word that we had in our source is marked with asterisk. So that way you can filter out your profane words when you're translating your text. Okay, so these were the three options that you have, so that you can make use of it based on your requirement. Next we have defining custom translation. Now Azure AI Translator also allow for custom translations. Let's say you have some specific business or industry vocabularies, and whatever inbuilt translations that Azure AI Translator API is doing is not sufficient. You have more language or you have more capabilities that you want to achieve with this Azure AI Translator. So it supports custom translation. So here you can create a custom model where you can map your source and target terms, okay, as per your translation features that you want to achieve. So for that you will have to train a model. You will have to create a custom model, and there are certain steps. First you will create a Azure AI Translator resource, then you create a project called custom translation project, wherein you will have to again upload your training data files which contain your specific translation terms. So if you have some specific needs with respect to translations, so you need to train your model by uploading the data, okay, data files where you have some the kind of data that you want to do for translation, and then you are going to train your model with this data, your custom model. And once your model is trained, you need to ensure that it works correctly, right? You have to test the model, and once you've tested it, you publish it, and then you can use this API to perform the translations with your custom model. Okay, so we will see this in the lab how we can do, but here I just want to tell you that this is the feature that we have and how you can make use of this feature. Now once you have done your custom model preparation, you have trained, and then you've deployed. Now when you're calling the API, there are some differences with respect to calling the API here. So to initiate your translation, you will send a post request. So this endpoint remains same, and here also you're calling the translate API, but there are certain parameters which are going to change here. So here you'll specify your API version, and then same two parameter from parameter, your target language and your source language, all that you will specify same like we have done earlier. But then there is an extra parameter called category. So this is the unique category ID of your custom model. So whenever you are deploying your custom model, a category ID will be assigned. So this unique category ID you need to specify in your request so that it understands that you're not calling the default API. You're calling a API wherein you have deployed your own custom model. Apart from that, you have your subscription key and a content type header, that is your JSON and all. Okay, so these are common. And next, your request body will have your JSON text which you want to translate. So this is how your full request will look like, wherein you are calling the endpoint of your translator API, that is translate, and then you're specifying your from parameter to parameter, that's the from and to source and translated text that you want in, and your category ID. So this category ID is of your custom model that you have deployed, and the response would be, if your successful request, if it is your successful, I mean, if you are able to call the API successfully, it will return 200 status code, and your response body will have your translated text here. Okay, so this way it will be providing you the translated text. And if it is unsuccessful, it will error out. It will provide error status code called 400 for any missing or invalid parameters. Let's say some parameter is missing, then it will provide the status code as 400. So this is how you can make use of your custom translation API using Azure AI Translator resource. Thank you.